we go. I do believe we are alive, so I'll say indeed, and greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. What a dear pleasure it is to have you here again on another conscious evolution, another opportunity for us to consider how it's dark before the light. You know, I mean, usually be darkest before the light. Part of me wants to get like the light side and the not light side half and half. Yeah, somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle we are. It is nice to be somewhere in the middle with your friends, thinking about how it's dark before it's light. There has been so much happening in the world right now. You might be better off not paying attention to it all, but I also don't know if that helps. I have tried both approaches. The ignorance is bliss approach. And I acknowledge that there is merit. There is some merit to the ignorance is bliss approach. I will not say that it doesn't not work. However, it's one of those things where ignorance is only bliss until it's not. You know? Like it's only nice not to know when the not knowing doesn't affect you. You know? Or when the not knowing does affect you. But if the not having not known affects you, then suddenly ignorance wasn't bliss. Then suddenly ignorance ends up being negligence. Right? Ignorance being bliss ends up being negligence. You neglected. And I don't want to look back, you know, into my past, in the future that is me, and think that I was neglecting things. Right? Thinking about it from this perspective of the human body. Right? Sometimes, for some people, it has to be darkest before it's light. Right? They have to go through some sort of medical scare, some sort of uh, life-shaking event for there to be a real change in their demeanor or the way they see the world, the way they see light. Handu Gaming YouTube, hi. You from? South Africa. Born and raised South African. Ek is Suid-Afrikaans, ek praat Afrikaans. Nice having you here. Today we're talking about the dark and the light. And specifically, how it is darkest before the light. How the time in history we're in right now seems to be pretty dark, at least as it relates to our ability to see the future. Right? We can think of darkness as uncertainty. Right? If it's dark, you are uncertain. Right? If it's dark, you don't just go sprinting full speed in a direction. You take easy steps, like careful. Oh, is there something in the way there? No, I can take another step. What time now? It is 9 minutes past 4. 9 minutes past 4 right now. My day is basically over. I've had my day. Was it a good one? Think it could have been better? Think it could have been better. There was like some moments of dark. But again, not dark from the perspective of evil or dark from the perspective of wrong, but dark from the perspective of unsure. The conviction that is needed to change the world, to change your world, I'm from India. I almost knew, Nandu. I almost knew you were from India, just like instinctively. It's nice having you here. What's the time in India right now? Don't think I have a thing for that on that device. What's the time in India? It's probably a little bit later on your side. Living on planet Earth. Nandu. Living in India. Yo, what a fractal that must be. It really is a trip how much we have to be grateful for. No matter where we find ourselves, there's always the contrast. 7:40 p.m. Yeah, it's getting up there. Almost almost getting time to sleep. And for our American friends, it's like AM hours. Like it's their morning. Like they're just getting up right now. Thinking about my other Indian friends. We have a few. We have Nisha these days as well, and Namaskar also joins. And then we have, of course, Kevo and Naren. They're also Indian friends. Am I missing someone? Probably. May they be remembered in prosperity, in austerity. Love is true. Yeah, I've been I've been paying attention to it all. Yesterday, I had the unfortunate pleasure, not unfortunate pleasure, the unfortunate opportunity to sit down and listen to a speech by JD Vance about AI, and he was talking to world leaders. I'm pretty sure the Indian, is it prime minister or something, was sitting there as well, and they were talking about AI. What age? You so young? Do I look young? Yes, I'm so young. I'm 26, so technically I am still young, relatively speaking. But this meeting that they had, right, and him standing in front of these people, basically letting them know how it be, right, and I cannot outright just say that everything he said was wrong and it's not true and plug your ears, don't listen, because there was still some truth to all of the things he was saying. He was talking about AI being one of the most impactful technologies of our age, and how whoever kind of like lets that genie out of the bottle, whoever rubs that lamp hard enough and gets the genie to come out of the bottle, is going to be very powerful because of it, and how America cannot afford to not be that superpower, and how that means, instead of like AI safety, the previous time they had that exact meeting, it's like a cyclical thing, they were talking about AI safety. I think you are single, right? Wrong. Wrong. Thank goodness. I would have been so embarrassed if I had to say, yes, you're right. I am in fact single, but wrong. Boom. Boom. Right? So the whole AI safety thing. The previous meeting was AI safety. They were like, oh shit, AI is potentially pretty dangerous. This genie that potentially can come out of the bottle can potentially point in a direction and turn that person into a monkey or whatever. Maybe not exactly that, like that, but like it's potentially dangerous, right? And this time around, instead of that being the conversation, it was AI opportunity, right? And he said those words directly. I was like, yeah, we were talking about AI safety last time. Now we're talking about AI opportunity. It's like, bro. It's almost like they didn't watch the Terminator movies, kind of vibes, you know. And I'm not saying that that's gonna happen. I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but but it does paint a certain narrative in our collective mind, right? That can potentially create this sense of darkness. One thing that he kind of hyped on as well that I appreciated is the fact that people won't be replaced by AI. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I do believe it, right? I don't believe it the way he said it necessarily, but I do believe it ultimately. that people will be made so much more capable because they have the capacity to use these tools, right? Because they have the access to these tools. And that is the thing that we get to look forward to. I think the big thing is the fact that America was trying to take a stance on AI safety because that's almost what they had to do from a publicity standpoint, right? Like they had to make it clear to everybody that that's how they're going to do it. And then they realized that doing it that way means that they pretty much are guaranteed to fall behind. They were like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. The amount of like server farms that are going to be built in America over the next 4 years is going to be absurd. 700 billion US dollars will be invested into AI in the next while. Like we cannot even fathom how much money that is. Like it's literally impossible for us. $700 billion. My mind's trying, but it's failing at understanding what that means. I'm trying to visualize it in like GPUs, in buildings, in infrastructure, in electric lines, in modular nuclear reactors, in massive nuclear reactors, in software developers, in office spaces, in transportation vehicles, in R&D. And even in thinking all of these things, I'm still like, how are you going to spend that much? I guess just you keep adding GPUs, you keep adding processors until your budget is up. It's like, yes, keep dragging the slider, until it says 700 billion. And like that's just the companies we can account for, right? In America, China is probably going to be doing much of the same. They're building out their renewable energy grid and batteries out of the wazoo. So they're going to be able to technically have more energy to bring stuff like that online. They do technically have limited access to the CPUs and GPUs manufacturers technically. But that also won't necessarily be a deterrent because the AI that we have right now is good enough to help us design better chips. And then all you really need is, you know, lithography machines. And we now know that you can make light-based processors with like 1990, the year 1990s tech, right? Literally, because it actually serves that function. The larger die size or the larger uh, resolution, if you will, actually serves the function of making light processing chips. And we've been able to do this for a while now. It's just not been that feasible scale wise. But it's going to be more efficient and it's going to be significantly more interconnected, communicating at the speed of light. And the cool thing about light is you can embed multiple different languages or multiple different frequencies, multiple different signals into the same beam of light, right? I can shine a laser at you, and in that laser, there is a song playing, there is a movie being streamed, there is photos of my family, scrolling past, all in the same beam of light. What? Oh, isn't that wild? We really do live in the future. The future is just not equally distributed. And it is this fractal of like, can we expect the universe to just equally distribute itself to us? Or is it going to be a matter of doing what we can to make ourselves a part of the distribution? You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure the euro became 1 1 with the dollar. I think it's like maybe $1.03. Let's say quickly. Euro to Dara. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Look at that. 1.03. Used to be 1.2 just in 2021. That means if you had 120,000 euros, let's say instead, if you had 100,000 euros, you could buy $120,000. And just in the last year or 2 years, it did dip a bit and then come back up again. But since September, people have lost like 11% of their purchasing power against the dollar. That's pretty stark. That happened real quickly. And it is shocking people. People are being shooketh. I would lie if I said I wasn't a little bit shocked too. The dark before the light. Is this what the dark looks like? Who even knows? Good morning, wild ones. Good morning, Hoopy. It's nice having you here, friend. We're talking about all of the stuffs. All of the stuff and as they relate to our future. The future has been very loud in my brain. It's like it's becoming more real to me these days. I didn't think I was gonna live for very long. Hey, Lawazana. Bless you for blessing our friend. I really didn't think I was gonna live very long at one point in my life. So I didn't really think about the future much. It wasn't important to me. And somewhere along the line, something changed. You know, I realized the importance of my being. And not from the place of self importance, but in realizing that dying doesn't serve, doesn't add value, doesn't help. That's your brain being loud in the present, the future don't exist. You see, that is actually what we're talking about today, Dream 2. It's like that. I don't know if I believe that anymore. I think the future does exist. I think the future is a place in the same way a destination can be. But you can only go to that destination if you know where it is. Right? And I feel like thinking about the future is kind of like the extracting of the knowing where it is. I know. And we were talking about it from this perspective, through this lens of it is darkest before the light. How if the future is bright, the future is the light. And if it's darkest before the light, in that way, we are in that dark right now. But instead of seeing dark as something that is bad, we can allow ourselves to see darkness as a certain type of uncertainty. All right, the not knowing. And from that place of not knowing, it is prudent to take careful steps. But I don't know if it's prudent to not want to know what the road looks like, right? What the potential challenges. Is it better to just focus on the part of the road you're walking on right now, right below you, versus looking up at the potential mountain you're going to climb? And then finding the mountain, or just finding this part of the dirt is very hard to climb as you're climbing up the mountain. I'm of the belief that it's nice, it's valuable to look at the mountain, to take it all in as you're walking towards it. Right? Maybe in looking at that, you might find a part of the mountain you would like to explore. There's maybe a tree on that mountain that you would want to go and see. There's a little creek, there's a little waterfall that you would like to go and bathe in. Right? Like there is value to be added in seeing a future. Seeing, I don't know if you can see the future. We can see a future. And it's almost like this matter of manifestation for me. May we all live long lives. I'm sure we will. I'm not even uh, the words I want to say is like prone to think about it. Right? The fact that we're gonna live long lives is almost like an assumption. It's like a baseline assumption that I make so I can continue to reason forward. It's like we live very long lives. And then what? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is that going to manifest as? Am I right? That's usually the crux of the question again that it comes back to. Flair, star child. Hey, friend. It's nice having you here again. Sending your blessings. Hoopy said as well, I wonder about stuff. But what of it? Maybe I take the steps I know. You do. I feel like those are usually the only steps we can take, ultimately. That's why education is so important. Because if you are shown steps that you didn't know, now you do. Right? And in being shown, you get to make decisions that you might not have ever made have you not had those decisions shown. Have you not learned? We live in such a strangely balanced world. Like it's almost like we're living in different worlds in that way. Right? I think in a way every single person does live in a different world. We had a little bit of a conversation about that yesterday even. And definitely so at the start of this stream in the whole conversation of ignorance is bliss. All right. The things you don't know about, that you don't need to know about, continues to be unknown. But if you didn't know about something and suddenly that thing becomes important for you to know, then it becomes a bad thing. Right? Then the bliss goes away. And then again, how do we ensure that doesn't happen? Which things, which ignorances can we afford ourselves? Ignorance seems often the way of the world, very much so. And I believe that it is in part responsible for a lot of suffering, a lot of struggle. Yes, the amount of struggle that ignorance has brought. Oh, it hurts me just imagining. Oh, I can see the struggles now. So much struggle. Unnecessary struggle. That's the big thing as well. Right? Like there is better way. We don't have to struggle like this. Teach a man to fish and all that. Yeah. That's true. Thinking again about value. Isaac Lily, what do you do for work? I'm a certified yoga teacher. So every single day I have a yoga class where I guide some of my students to their own betterment and personal well being. Then I have this, which is my YouTube moment, where we take some time out of our day to what we do, what we call conscious evolution, right? Believing that most of our evolution has already happened as people, and that most of our evolution now going forward will happen as consciousness, right? We will consciously have to evolve our ways of seeing the world, etc., etc. And then after this, I have a little workflow where I make art. I take a photo of my clothing. So today's flower will be brownish. Yesterday's was more bluish. Right. So I make one of these every day. I've been doing that for 1,137 consecutive days. And then in this process, we eventually started a business. And this business basically is now what I would consider my work. And the work has been making visuals for festivals where they have these 3D, not 3D, LED walls. And then those LED walls need something to go on them. And then I'm the guy that they ask right now, at least for this brand that's my current client for my business, to make the thing that goes on the wall. And then, yeah, I also go and I make sure it goes on the wall the way it's supposed to. What more do I do? Feel like that's basically what people value at this point, right? I think that's what people do. People. If people ask me what do I do for work, that would probably be it. When it comes to personal work, you'll see. I'm not doing enough. Yes, like I need to chillax. That's like one of the biggest personal works that I can do. I have absolutely no chillax in me. Even as I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm actually running at the same time. I'm only sitting still in person, but up there, no. Taking breaths. Feels like the future is so fast approaching, and I'm like trying everything in my power to brace myself. Trying to brace myself. It's like we're in the dark. And the thing we're bracing ourselves for is the sunrise. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to take away from this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's darkest before the light, going from night to dawn. And all I'm bracing myself for is the sunrise. Yes. And the way you brace yourself for a sunrise is by waking up early and showing up to see it. That's the best way, at least. Instead of fearing it, right? None of us go to sleep being scared of the sunrise tomorrow morning. Maybe that is the way to see it. Yeah, that feels so succinct. I like that. Yes, I'm gonna put it in my brain again. When you think about the future and you feel like you're bracing yourself or you need to brace yourself, realize you're bracing yourself for a sunrise. Okay, myself? He says yes. Me and myself convene. Expanding into the infinite inner space. Oh yeah, bro. That's great, man. Glad you found a way to make a creative outlet your livelihood. Creativity is the most potent and natural route to dopamine for humans. That's real, Isaac. That's pretty real. I would lie if I said I wasn't dopamine motivated. Right. I am definitely on the ADHD train as well. Until I'm not. Right. And I think that maybe what ADHD does is that it keeps giving you so many other things to think about and to do and to prompt at until you find that thing that really gives you a moment of focus and you get to channel yourself into it. Like this, and it is a form of creativity, I believe at least, is for me a moment to channel this conversational ability to be able to just auto generate information. And sometimes I need help. You friends help a lot by asking me questions, and in that way, all of us become a part of this work of art that we are collectively painting right now. That's why I like this format. This format has been the same for a long time. And I don't know if I want to change the format. If I'm going to change the format, I'm just going to expand on what already is. I want it always to be about you, friends, and your comments and the things that you want to say and you want to bring into this world. Get up early to be ready for the dawn. I love it. Yeah, right? It might still be dark. It might still be dark when you get up, right? When you eventually wake up, it might still be dark, right? Again, from this whole dark is before the light, uh, a lot of us are asleep right now because it's dark. It's okay to be asleep when it's dark. Of course, it's very normal. We sleep in the dark, but you can still wake up. And more of us will, inevitably, when it's light out. Right? And that's the future. The future is light. I feel like something mess. This makes me happy. I'm gonna have a field day writing today's poem. Mm. The future. The future is bright, like a sunrise. And if you're bracing for it, know that it looks like waking up. Waking up. You know the question I'm asking myself? I'm asking myself, how asleep am I right now? Because there's like some percentage of asleepness. I'm definitely not fully awake. I don't think so, at least. I think there's definitely more awake to be. Right? And again, there is a balance of the work that I have to do to wake up, to get up in the morning. But there is also the motivation that is the brightness, that is life, that is the sun, that is the sunrise. Yeah. My mind wants to like shimmy because of our human experience in somewhere like skin cancer. That you still will, even if the future is bright, have to take some sort of precaution to protect yourself so that you don't get scorched by the heat. I'll build a super suit. We're gonna build super suit. I'm gonna keep freaking manifesting super suit until I'm wearing it, until it's on my body, and it's just gonna be one of the new normal things. We're gonna be like, yeah, super suit. Did you know that there's now like a language model equivalent that does material engineering? You tell a generative model that understands molecular science what you want the properties of your material to be, and then it builds it for you. And then if you take those molecules and you build them in reality, they serve the function that you ask them to serve. We're already doing it for battery tech. It's already being done for like tensile strength materials as well. All right. And I kept saying the only thing limiting us from getting super suit is material science. And now we're like melting through that barrier. All right. We're going so fast. Right? There's no time for doors to open. We have to melt through them. You know. That's the only that's the only thing we can export right now. And again, the thing is about this technology is that it's going to become more and more open source, right? Because you, as a company, let's talk about this fractal of almost like closed source technology. Microsoft and Macintosh and Linux, right? These are like three different worlds. Microsoft is the way it is, Mac is the way it is, and Linux is open source. And Linux feels, still to this day, even in some ways at the very least, like it falls behind all of the other competitors, the Microsoft and Mac OS. But when it comes to the longevity and the eventuality of what Linux will become as well, it is eventually going to be the winner, right? From a matter of what people want. Like if the companies as they are keep abusing us as consumers, there will be this natural inclination towards, gravitating towards the open source way of doing things, right? So in that way, and the companies, the ultra mega wealthy companies know this as well, by the way, especially the artificial intelligence ones, right? The technology companies, that if you limit your software base, if you basically force your software to be closed source in a way that only your little team of people have eyes on that code and only that little small team of people are allowed to change anything about it, you literally limit the rest of humanity's help, right? So in the ultimate future, the project that grows the fastest is going to be the one that has the most help, no matter what that project is, right? The more help there is, the faster things happen. And in that way, there is this incentive to eventually, at the very least, become the good guy because you'll have help. You'll actually have help, right? And the opposite case scenario is true as well. That if you're the bad guy, you're gonna have people actively getting in the way, right? They're gonna gunk up the machine that's gonna, try and stop you from continuing smoothly. So like a double incentive, right? We're gonna be good. We're gonna be so good. There I see Zhao waving at us and sending hearts. Isn't that good? Right? There's a human being somewhere in the world that could have said anything, could have done anything, could have spewed a bunch of hatred, could have let me know that in fact I am stupid and the world's gonna end anytime soon. And I've literally been told those things verbatim. But no, no, we get to cast light to the world, right? We get to look forward to the future. We get to believe that it's actually a real place, right? And there is definitely the jury is out. Let's say it like that, right? The jury is out on whether or not that's true. How future thinking do we need to be? I think we're not future thinking enough. I think we're future thinking only like a few years into the future when we're supposed to be thinking decades into the future, right? I do believe that. I think we're going to have to. And I think it's going to be inevitable again as people live longer and longer with our current medical tech absolutely going ballistic. They will almost start naturally thinking in decade time frames instead of year time frames, right? It's going to be like, oh, of course. Of course, I'm going to spend decades changing something, making sure that it gets changed for the betterment of society, for the hope of the future, for those who will inherit the earth. And if not for inheriting the earth, for myself, selfish reasons, even fine. If you have to selfishly motivate people to take care of the world, then so be it as well. We're all in this together. I thought, like, I heard this line again, the Martin Luther King line, that, and I'm not an American, so this doesn't really, and I think technically, no, it doesn't really relate to me. No, I did come on boats, but let me just say the line. The Martin Luther King line goes, "We all came on different boats, but we're all in the same boat now." Right? That from the American perspective, some groups of people were brought on boats as slaves, and some groups of people came on boats as conquerors. And I'm putting it like that because not all of those people were conquerors, stereotyping. And not all of those people were slaves, stereotyping. But we're all in the same boat now, not stereotyping. Boom, you see, I'm solving the problem. The thing about the future is it never arrives. I don't know if that's true, Mojo. I don't know if that's true because in the past, right, when the internet was at its infancy, one of the things that people envisioned of the future is a world where every single person has access to information, right? The part that ended up not being true is that people are going to use that information to better their lives and the lives of others. Womp womp. Like the loudest of womps womps. But that doesn't mean it can't still be done. And again, I do believe AI and robotics as well will help, right? Because there will be a literal super intelligence that can help guide our species little by little. We used to use religion to help guide our species. Oh no. I just realized the fact that we're gonna have like Christian language models as well. There's gonna be there's gonna be a mega church that has an AI. In the same sense that it's always the present. It's always true, Mojo. But the thing that I'm kind of like getting at is the way in which the past had a dream about what the future would be. And people probably did imagine a future in the past where people would have these computers on their personal bodies, right? There are people who imagine that future. And in that way, we are now in that future, right? Retrospectively. So, from that perspective, we can either be right or be wrong about what the future is going to be. And I feel there is still value in analyzing, right? And iterating and considering that value proposition, as a person to another person, right? If we can predict the future, we can be better, right? In a bunch of different metrics, literally. Like there is a value, there's a value in predicting the future. And then there is, I mean, I want to say almost like the hot take, the insanity that is there's a step up, right? If you think it's valuable to predict the future, get ready for creating the future, right? And all of us are the creators of that future. And again, you can create the right future or you can create the wrong future. And if you sit by and you wait for others to create, then you literally, by that definition, exclude yourself from the creative process, right? So you don't get to help create the future that you wanted, right? And then the only person that there is to blame would be the self. And then that creates a whole loop of, self hatred, and then self hatred becomes a projection of the outer world. And then we're back at square zero, right? Everything is better than it's ever been, but because it's not better for every single person, it's not perfect. And then we're perpetuating perpetuations. Right? So for me, it's like a matter of like, oh, we need to start getting really good at decision making. We need to get really good at self control. Like again, work that needs to be done. I could have better self control. I don't know. You know what? You know what? I have good self control. I'm gonna give myself that. Right? People used to actively murder each other. People used to have to be sit down and be like, "Hey, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that," because they had so little self control. So yeah, huzzah humanity. We're not all completely insane. Technology has always been used for good and bad. It depends on the intent and the person using and controlling it. Just look at nuclear power. Nuclear power is coming back. And it's, as you said, it's not a matter of good or bad necessarily in the nuclear power itself, but a matter of how it's being controlled, right? If you have very low safety standards while giving people control over nuclear technology, that can be very bad, very quickly. And the same is true for the opposite of that spectrum as well, right? If there is clear safety standards and machinery is built, and the next nukes are going to be a little bit better when it comes to that, where they have like redundancies, plugs that melt instead of just exploding, right? They will drain themselves without any human intervention necessary. So we would be able to technically, like the ideal, and it's the same thing with like a battery bank. If you had to press a bunch of buttons and make sure these readings on your battery wasn't where they weren't supposed to be, and if they were where they weren't supposed to be, you had to push a button, otherwise your battery exploded in your house. Not a single person would have a battery right now. But no, a battery gets plugged into a wall and then it stores electrons, right? And that's basically how much you have to know about that whole system, right? The black box on the inside doesn't really matter to you. It might be interesting to you, given, but it doesn't really matter to you. As long as it works as advertised, you're happy. You're like, good. And we're going to basically build modular nukes with that kind of mentality. Like, people are going to buy boxes that's closed that they're going to plug into their grids, and they're going to be like, nice. Brain switch off, no have think. And in that way, we're going to have computers. We're going to need computers because this technology is going to last decades, right? And if something is so robust, we can just plump it down and forget about it for 15 years. 15 years is a lot of time for human beings. And I can guarantee you the people that built those things are going to have moved on to other things. And the people that are going to have to fix those things or change those things or add onto those things will have completely different skill sets and might not even know what they're doing there, right? So, in that way, computers, good technologies. Using it from good. I gotta go. It was nice having you, Flair Child. Bless. Just wanted to stop by and say hello and contribute a bit. Aw, contributes even more. That's so nice. Simon says, GS got a membership from Flair Child. Bless your friend. It was nice having you here. Thank you for your support of this channel and for giving a friend a membership. So nice of you. Hope you have a good one too. Yeah, staying hopeful. It's hard. Jeez. Holy I hope it's clear that I'm like trying. Is it clear that I'm trying to stay hopeful? Because I think it is a trying thing. You have to try. Because sometimes if you're not trying, it's impossible. Hey, Akash, it's nice having you here. Bless you. Have you thought about the future recently, Akash? Yeah? Don't we all think about the future? You think it's going to be good? Uncertain. That seems to be the answer. That seems to be the answer. Most people are very uncertain. And today's stream has been talking about the fact that it is darkest before the light, almost from a place of certainty, almost from the place of like our cycle that is the planet, right? The earth spins and it's light and it's dark and it's light and it's dark. And while it's dark, people spend a lot of time sleeping. And right now, it's dark, right? And it's okay to be asleep. But when the future comes, when the sun rises again, it's going to be too bright. It's going to be uncomfortable staying asleep. Always you, sir, and my friend. Thinking about our friends' future too, you're right. It really is a lot. Thinking about it from this perspective of your friends are a part of your future. So, in that way, the way their future is a part of you. Mm. I keep forgetting how to articulate that properly to people, right? That when you care about someone, when you really care about someone, you believe they're a part of your life. And when they're a part of your life, them being okay, them being healthy, them taking care of themselves is a good thing for you, right? None of us like seeing our friends in a bad place, suffering, struggling. None of us like that. None of us feel, oh, this is nice. Look at how my friend struggles, right? Like there's like a few options there as well. Like what do you do? Do you help them? Do you start financially providing for them? You're not gonna like doing that either, right? So them being okay, them having enough to be okay is a good thing, right? And that in that way, our futures are like so mangled together that it's irreversible, right? Like it's so hard to not care. My other country people is my favorite color. Always welcome, my friend. Welcoming myself to this moment. Welcoming you to this moment as well, dear one. Yeah. What the future looks like. Not too different from it, from what the present looks like either. Right? I feel like that's also something that goes a little bit unrecognized. And I think it's also now my mind as I'm talking about this, it's expanding on when the future is. Right? For me, when I think about the future, it's very much attached to the year 2044. Ourselves enough time by that point to have matured with a bunch of. Is that Aaron? Oh, bro. Me and Aaron had a phone call this morning a little bit. Bro, it's like so nice. So nice seeing you here right now. We're talking about the future and we're talking about the dark before the light. And this is the takeaway for me. And I would like to share this with you as well, like as as a short snippet, is that we can relate the darkness before the light to our earthly cycle. Right? And in that way, when it's dark, many people are asleep. And then when it's light, the sleep becomes uncomfortable and they awaken, right? Just with our like earthly cycle on like a physical level. And then thinking of it from the perspective of the philosophical level, from like a perspective of bad times entering good times. And in that way, I feel psychologically, us as a planet is in that last, the darkness before the light, before the morning rises, like the sun rises, part of our species. And there can be, when thinking about the future, this feeling of needing to brace ourselves, needing to get ready, needing to make sure we're going to be okay. And that energy should be related back again down to the physical level. That bracing yourself is like bracing yourself for a sunrise. Instead of being so tense about it, you get to appreciate it, right? You already see the warm glow at that point, right? There's already a warm glow, and you know that that sun is going to peek over that horizon at any point. And you don't have to brace yourself from it from a perspective. You can squint your eyes, right? You can put on your shades. But it is a bracing ourselves that's not as scary as we maybe make it out to be. I'm waking up. Hello, yawn, yawn. Unlurking to love, Aaron. Howdy, friend. We actually talked about you a little bit a while ago, and I did mention that you're doing well. Maybe I can share this actually, that Aaron let me know that yesterday when he went to work, he spent good time with good people, eating good food, having jazz playing in the background, and then making music as well, right? Did I get that right? I'm pretty sure. And then we were joking about how if Aaron a few years ago had to tell me what his ideal workplace would be, this would be his description. And we've been talking today about the future, Aaron, and how, in hindsight, if we had to look back at what we thought the future was going to be like, the future already is here in many ways. Right? And it helps to recognize that. Yeah, relax into it, let it all happen. Melting more, melting into that experience. There is no fighting it. Fighting change, right? What's next? You're gonna fight the waves. You're gonna run into the ocean and start punching them waves every single time they come. Don't stop it. And you know what the best part is? The the fighting change scale. Like I just made the whole fractal of like you're gonna fight the waves, you're gonna run into the ocean, and then we're like, oh wow, the ocean is so big, and we're gonna fight that change, right? How silly! But the change we're really fighting is so much more vast than the ocean, infinitesimally more vast than the ocean could ever hope to be. Uh, the ocean holds a lot of creatures, but the realms above hold even more. Indeed, we're listening to music, not making music yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Aaron does make his own music too these days, though. We were talking about that as well. The fact that you're actually performing a little bit. We were having a conversation that day about a bunch of our other RPAN friends and how Lane, I think you're aware of Lane as well. Uh, Basically is now a performing artist. He does gig work for other bands as well, has his own band, does work for bars and places, is actually earning a living making art, being a musician. And it's just, yeah, it's exciting to share these excitements. Heady talk for morning, Aaron. Sorry about, it'd be sometimes. Kiefer is here too. Bless you, bro. I believe we create our futures to a certain extent. We had that conversation, bro. And I'm so looking forward to reading the rest of your message because I want to give you context first about what we talked about. Was like you can predict the future potentially. And if you can predict the future accurately, it can be very profitable to do so. It can bring a lot of value into your life to have predicted the future. And then, if we think, and we know that that is possible, but if we think that's going to bring value, creating the future, as you just said, brings even more, right? A lot more value. Lately, I've been thinking about the future in the sense of my next lives. But I've got nieces and nephews too, and I think about their futures as well, right? Like they are a part of your future, right? And again, in that same capacity, them being okay, them being taken care of, them being well off affects your life, affects your future. So we want the best for them. Very nice, Joe. Thank you for saying hi. Good morning, beautiful humans. Hope y'all are having a great day. Even better with you here, Kiefer. Always. So happy to hear that. Talk about creating your future, right? Right, we did talk about that a little bit. What future are we creating for ourselves right now? It's uncertain. We definitely are creating a future of I don't want to make statements like this, but we are in a present that points towards a future where there's going to be the consolidation of power, right? And if you look at history, maybe we can talk about this a little bit with like proper detail. Can you tell us about how the first modern capitalist company basically took power from the whole world and made the model that is monarchy or yeah, monarchy, being a king of a place and having absolute rule made that model completely obsolete. I'm trying to compare this shift of power from one party to the other through the means of capitalism, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing, and how that could potentially lead us to creating technology that might make the world a better place in the same way it did in the past as well. I want you to tell us a little bit in detail about that past. Give me the facts, how it happened, how long it took, and how can we relate that to what's happening right now. I think I'm going to activate the reasoning model too on that one. Reason a bit about it, but think about it. Hey, Zano is here too. It's nice seeing you, Zano. Talk about. So happy to hear that. Talk about creating your future of less again, right? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Whether you want to be in the future, practice being there in the present. That is real. Yeah, you're right. And you're like, for me, just the fractal of talking about the if you always do what you've done, you're always going to get what you've got, right? Because a lot of people don't like what they're getting anymore and they're looking for something else. So here's the little snippet of information. Let's learn something. Let's consciously evolve in consideration. Below is an overview of how one of history's first modern capitalist companies, the Dutch East India Company, transformed global power structures, undermined traditional forms of monarchical rule, and in a sense made monarchy obsolete in certain domains. I'll cover the facts, the timelines, and the mechanisms of power transfer, and the parallels and contrasts with today's technologically driven capitalism. The VOC and the transformation of power. In the early 17th to 18th centuries, the emergence of the VOC and a modern capitalized enterprise. The foundation and charter was in 1602. The VOC was established in 1602 by the Dutch state. Its charter granted it a 21-year monopoly on trade in Asia and endowed it with a quasi-governmental powers. It couldn't it could wage war, negotiate treaties, build forts, mint coins, and even administer colonial territories. This legal and financial innovation, including the issuance of shares, could be traded on what is now the world's first stock exchange, marked the birth of modern joint stock capitalism, which means that I put money into your thing, and if your thing more valuable, my money more valuable, right? And then they got a lot of money because of that. Have you ever heard of the tragedy of commons? You should look it up. It's an important part of history. It sounds pretty familiar, and I probably have, but I will afterwards. Hey, Kristen is here too. You know what? I think I'm going to start up this conversation on the horizontal stream because we've already been here for an hour. If you're interested in this stuff, I know not many people are, but I find this stuff interesting because, again, looking at the past is a good stick for measuring. Like, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme, right? There might be some beats that's kind of the same. And in knowing what the beats are, you can dance to them instead of just standing still on the dance floor, feeling all awkward. Love is true. I see you friends on the horizontal one in a moment.